17 turns in total, 10 to the right, as I said, more right-hand turns, and only 7 to the left. The record is 128.323. That's held by Didi Pironi and by Nelson Piquet jointly. That has been shattered by no fewer than 17 cars in qualifying and practice, but that's something that we expect in qualifying, which you don't necessarily see in the race. We've just had information sent up to the commentary position here that Theo Fabi's Pullman car has a fuel leak, which is, of course, a dangerous thing to have on the starting line. So therefore, you can see the forecast there. The temperature 17 degrees. The wind is hardly there at all. And we just hope that we're not going to have any showers. We've got Mr. Labatt up there, and maybe going to wave that green flag.
That is Sinola, the president of Labatt, along with Mr. Marcel Liche, the Minister of Tourism from the Quebec provincial government. We would like to welcome our viewers on ESPN in the United States as the practice lap is underway from the Villeneuve Circuit in Montreal.
Well, the cars are now just on one lap, which is called the parade lap. They're going to go around this lap, and they'll use this lap to warm up not only the engines, the transmission, but also the tires and also the brakes. You will see the cars weaving from time to time, and you see a plan of the racetrack here as the cars go round. The start-finishing flag you can see on the bottom right-hand side of the course map as they go around. A lot of water around here. You can see the cars weaving there in our picture above, and that weaving is merely to get their tire temperatures up to their best operating temperature. When these tires are absolutely cold, they are extremely slippery, very difficult to drive on, and with full tanks, and drivers that are a little nervous and sometimes just overreact, obviously it's a particularly dangerous time of the race.
So many turns on this course. Eddie Cheever, the American, driving the number 23 Alfa Romeo, was saying earlier that you go from speeds of 280 kilometers an hour all the way down to zero. He said it's neither a fast track nor a slow track. It is simply a tough track, the surface a bit bumpy.
Yes, and by the way, as we look down from our commentary position here, the car of Theo Fabi's that I mentioned had a petrol leak, has had to start from the pit lane. Theo Fabi is now sitting in his car down below our commentary position, right at the start-finishing line, but in the pit lane. When the start takes place, all of the cars will start, and only after they have passed the start-finishing line on the racetrack will Theo Fabi be allowed out onto the racetrack, so he will be behind the entire field. The cars going round there, of course, we know that Elio de Angelis is in pole position, very talented Italian. Ayrton Senna, the brilliant young Brazilian. Brazil's produced so many very good race drivers. Carlos Paci, Emerson Fittipaldi, Guerrero, Nelson Piquet, and now Senna. Fantastic lineup of great drivers. They've all gone to Europe to serve their apprenticeship, and they're all certainly showing themselves now in the world of Grand Prix racing. John Player Special, both the Lotuses, of course, are John Player Specials in the front, and then two Ferraris. Unusual to see two teams dominating the two main rows of the grid.
You mentioned the Brazilians. The defending champion, of course, is a Brazilian, Nelson Piquet. He had the pole last year and won this race. Once again, let's join.
And here they come down the straight. This is the slowest you're going to see them this afternoon. This is the moment, really, when the drivers know that it's all about to happen. They missed, don't forget, the Belgian Grand Prix. The Monaco Grand Prix must seem a long time ago for them. Here they are now. I work out they've got something like 20,000 horsepower. Drives from 11 nations, waiting for the red light as soon as they get onto the grid. Now, back to you, Brian and Jackie.
As we look down, tremendous anticipation, a record crowd here in Montreal.
The red light, the light system you see in the top right-hand side of your picture there, only when all the cars have come to a stop will that red light go on. Within 10 seconds of that red light going on, the green light will show, and that will indicate the start of the race.
From Montreal, the pole sitter, Elio de Angelis, is first through, and it looks like a clean start. De Angelis is followed by his teammate, the young Brazilian, Ayrton Senna, and then the two Ferraris, Alboreto and the rookie Johansson.
Alan Prost got himself up into 5th position there. Piquet's Brabham, he looks like he might be in trouble a little bit. He was very slow at the beginning as they weaved their way through without any trouble.
Jackie, it's going to be very interesting to watch the number 1 McLaren. There it is, just turning the corner of defending world champion Niki Lauda. Now, he is starting way back from the number 17 position, but he had the fastest time this morning. A lot of people figure, there it is, right there, car number 1, that Lauda is really going to move up through this field.
I think he will. He'll take a couple of laps to get it sorted out, quiet everybody down before he goes. But one of the Renaults there, and that is the car of Derek Warwick, has passed one of the Ferraris, so he's got himself an improved position right at the very beginning. That looks good. And Theo Fabi, incidentally, did not get underway. Theo Fabi is not out of the course at this time. He's got a problem. As we look high down, it's Elio de Angelis leading, then Senna, then Alboreto, then Warwick, and then Johansson of the Ferrari.
And Johansson in that Ferrari is followed by the other McLaren, just turning the corner, car number 2, that of Alain Prost. Back to complete the first lap, it is De Angelis followed by Senna, Alboreto, Warwick, Johansson, Prost, and there comes the other Renault.
That was very close there coming through there. It looked like Patrick Tambay was making an effort to get past, but he didn't make it. Alain Prost has still got himself tucked in behind the Ferrari. That is Derek Warwick, driving very aggressively. The Renaults have not been as successful this year as they had hoped. They certainly haven't been quite as fast as everyone expected. Alain Prost there, one of the drivers with a very good fuel consumption in his Tag Porca engine, one of the engines we would expect to do well. Johansson sticking really close behind the Renault as they go out of that slowest corner right down to first gear of these early laps.
As we watch the Renault, that's the Renault of Derek Warwick. Renault engines have won 2 races this year. The Lotus are powered by Renault. The Renault car is yet to win. We asked Warwick at the news conference Thursday afternoon, what is the story? He has the feeling that finally they are ready to put this car together, and he'd like to put on a show today here in Montreal.
Right now he's holding up Johansson, and Prost is catching Johansson. This is going to be a tricky one. Alboreto's moved ahead, you see, so it is. Warwick is holding up Johansson just a wee bit. Of course, that's good racing. He's not trying to hold them up. It's just the fact that his car is not just as quick. You can see everybody piling up behind the Renault of Derek Warwick. Patrick Tambay is closing up on Alain Prost because of it, but De Angelis is well ahead there with Senna comfortably tucked in behind him.
Then comes Alboreto, Warwick, Johansson, and the other Renault of Patrick Tambay. Patrick Tambay would dearly love to win on this course, as he was a very close friend of the late Gilles Villeneuve, and says it means an awful lot to him to race on the Circuit Villeneuve.
The 2 Renaults really taking a very healthy lead now, and De Angelis is the man who is more comfortably in the lead at this moment. The 2 different brake systems are being used in the Lotuses. Nelson Piquet is out of the race, it seems. We don't have any sight of Nelson Piquet. They've been having mechanical troubles all the year in the BMW engine Brabham. Not at all been a competitive season for Brabham so far, so it looks like Nelson's dropped out. Elio de Angelis, and look at that wonderful shot from up high in the blimp, looking down at the most attractive Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the Île Notre-Dame here in Montreal.
Jackie Stewart, as we look at the number 11 Lotus, that is Elio de Angelis, the only driver in the points in all 4 races, followed by his teammate Senna. I keep hearing it's a different de Angelis for years. You know, look at
and that's Warwick. Warwick's got a problem. It did seem to me earlier on that he was slowing and he did have problems. You could see the rest of the field getting away from him. So he's had trouble. It looked like it maybe having gear selection trouble there. He certainly wasn't in gear when we saw him.
I was saying of Elio de Angelis, he comes from a very wealthy family in Italy, and they say that he's never really been motivated. We've never seen the real de Angelis, but in 1985, Senna seems to have given him that little shove that he needs.
Well, I think so, because Senna, certainly within his own team, has proved to be very competitive and has been faster in most events. than Elio de Angelis, and that's a very difficult thing for another driver to take within the team. So I think Elio, for the first time, really has got the bit between his teeth, and he's got some reason to race, not just a question of financial reward, not just a question of a comfortable bed at home, but a reason to have to prove himself categorically within his own team. A lot of pressure for De Angelis, but I think he's dealing with it very well and very maturely.
As we look at De Angelis, live coverage after 3 laps here at Montreal, it is De Angelis by 2 seconds over Senna, followed by Alboreto, Johansson, Tombe, Prost, Rosberg, Boutsen, Cheever, Mansell, Patrese, Warwick, and Winkelhock. Niki Lauda, by the way, started in the number 17 position, right now is running 14th. Michele Alboreto. And just walking in front of us below our broadcast area here at the start-finish line is the defending Canadian Grand Prix champion, Brabham's Nelson Piquet. He is out of the race. Came here last year. He hadn't finished the race in 6 starts in 1984. Won here and, of course, won the next weekend in Detroit. So it is official now. Piquet, the defending champion, is through for the afternoon. Very much alive at De Angelis.
Theo Fadi has now joined the race again. So Theo Fadi, famed for his Indianapolis performance a couple of years back there, has now joined the race but is 1 lap in arrears. In the lead, incidentally, De Angelis is leading Senna by 2.51 seconds. So 2.5 seconds he has in hand, which is quite a bundle.
Elio de Angelis, always known as competitive in practice. He said to me this morning, we're here to tell you, in 1985, Lotus is no longer competitive only in practice. As we look at his teammate, running second, that is car number 12, Brazil's Ayrton Senna, who won in Portugal and was leading when he ran out of gas at San Marino. Remember, passed by Johansson, only to have Johansson himself run out of gas 2 laps later. And there's Nelson Piquet.
Yeah, Nelson won't be a happy boy. He's had a very sad season so far. And there's the Ferrari. He is now making up a little ground. Alboreto is making up a little ground there on Senna. Nelson Piquet having a drink there from his reservoir for refreshment, which he keeps strapped to his chest during a race. Racing drivers do get dehydrated.
There's the other Ferrari, Jackie, number 28, Johansson. He was saying earlier this week, it is every driver's dream to once in his life sit in the blood-red machine. And that dream has come true for young Johansson. There's the other Renault. Warwick was having trouble. That is Patrick Tombe, the Frenchman.
Tombe's up to 5th position right now. Eddie Cheever, the only American in this race, has joined up into 8th position. A very good improvement for Eddie Cheever. Just behind Keke Rosberg, who's in 7th position, and Alan Prost in 6th. So he's in darn good company. Patrick Tombe having passed Alan Prost, everyone. And there is Prost there. Rosberg is getting very close to Prost. Keke Rosberg and the Honda engine, and there is Theo Fadi back in the pits. Theo Fadi, he's out of the car. It looks like he's closing the office for the day.
That is car number 19 as we look at Prost. Theo Fadi, the only Pullman Hart entered here in Montreal. So 2 cars out of the race, Fadi and the defending champion Nelson Piquet.
We'll be back with more of the Grand Prix de Canada after these messages.
Wir sind in der 6. Runde. Im Pit Ayrton Senna 2,4 Sekunden hinter De Angelis, 3,1 Sekunden vor Alboreto. Alboreto 6 Sekunden vor Johansson, knapp dahinter bereits Tombe. Senna in der Box. Ayrton Senna in der Box. Ja, man hat sehr viel riskiert bei Lotus heute. Man hat über Mittag den Motor gewechselt, nachdem Senna im Aufwärmtraining Wasser im Motor gehabt hat und jetzt offensichtlich Probleme mit den Reifen. Vielleicht hat sich Senna noch in irgendeiner Richtung verspekuliert. 13 Sekunden bereits der Boxenstopp. Ayrton Senna. Der brasilianische Wunderknabe, der in der Weltmeisterschaft heuer schon führen müsste, hätte ja nicht dieses enorme Pech gehabt in Imola vor allem, als in Führung liegen, 3 Runden vor Schluss.
Ayrton Senna from Brazil.
That's De Cesaris in the first of the Ligiers into the pits. His teammate Jacques Lafitte, who won here several years ago, also with Ligier.
He looks like he's got a front wing problem. One of his front wings have been damaged. They're changing the front aerofoil. He had spun out. That was him. He had come in contact somehow, and he did it again to one of the stall bandits and knocked the wheel off. That looks like Elio. He's had a lot of trouble using too much power there, getting a little bit excited. I'm afraid the Chesary's been off more road racetracks than he's been on them recently. He seems to constantly get himself in trouble. And that's the steaming wreckage that's been left here. There is Johansson looking in his mirror. The yellow flag is out. The yellow flag is out. That's to warn everybody that there is potential problem. Take care. Do not pass under the yellow flag. That is one of the regulations. And there's Nicky Lauda finding his way through the traffic. Nicky Lauda is up to 12th position now. That looks like Alio's car that's smouldering there with the left front wheel very much off at an angle, and it was he who ran into the car of De Cesaris after De Cesaris spin.
And that's Elio de Angelis, the lone Lotus, now left in this race. He is the leader.
And that's De Cesaris that he's coming up to lap now. So De Cesaris hopefully will move over and let him through, and he hasn't done it. De Cesaris was not looking in his mirror. You will see De Angelis now getting a little angry. He's managed to get past there quite easily. Now De Angelis, of course, has quite a gap between him and the Ferrari of Alboreto. We'll give you that gap in a moment.
And you saw the blue flag there. For those of you not familiar with motor racing, the blue flag is to signal the driver that another car is going to pass. Elio de Angelis, his brilliant young teammate Senna from Brazil, won in the driving rainstorm, and the second race of the year in Portugal is out. De Angelis, known as Mr. Reliable.
And that there is, of course, Michele Alboreto.
And right now, let's join Barry Gill.
Well, I'm with the man who's won the Canadian Grand Prix twice. And last year gave us a marvellous race. What happened this time, Nelson?
Well, I was unhappy. I did only be fast, and I think I broke something inside the gearbox, the final drag shaft, the final drive or the drag shaft.
Very disappointing, though. Better luck next time. Thank you for talking to us. Back to Brian.
And there is a former world champion, the Williams Honda car number 6, Finland's Keke Rosberg.
Well, Rosberg was doing extremely well. He was in great shape. He was up into 6th position. He was ahead of Alain Prost. He dropped back behind Prost, but he had got himself in a good shape there, and suddenly he's in the pits. He's in trouble.
Well, the story right now in this race is Ferrari. Alboreto running second. This car, number 28, Johansson, the Ferrari rookie, who came to Ferrari after Rene Arnoux was fired. Arnoux finished in the points in Brazil, was replaced by Johansson. Johansson gave those great Italian racing fans so very much to cheer about this year in San Marino before running out of gas. He is followed by Patrick Tambay, Alain Prost, Eddie Cheever, Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows. Once again, here's Barry Gill.
Well, this Canadian Grand Prix is already turning into a race of attrition. We've lost twice winner Nelson Piquet. And here behind me, you see Ayrton Senna, my favourite, I must admit, to win, who's out at the moment with turbo problems. He's not the only one. Theo Fabi is also out with a turbo problem. So two of the great drivers and a great flyer out already. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you very much, Barry Gill. As you look at car number 15, that is Patrick Tambay. Barry, it's interesting. Senna's car had a new engine put into it today.
Yes, and it now seems that the turbo is the problem that's gone wrong with it, so the turbo is playing up. I'm afraid the turbocharged engines are somewhat unreliable in comparison to normally aspirated engines. They push out so much power that it's so easy for them to run into trouble, and it does seem that the turbo has given up on the Senna car. Incidentally, De Angelis is leading Alboreto by only 4.5 seconds, so that's not too much. There you see a bit of pressure there. There is Alain Prost putting the power on. And keep in mind that he's going to be looking out for fuel consumption. He's got Patrick Tambay ahead of him, and he is now just recognizing this as a long race, you've got to finish to win. Prost knows that. He's lost a few World Championship races because of not sticking with that philosophy. He cocked his head to the side just a little while ago just to see who was in his mirror. As we look down again from our airship, the Goodyear airship called America, high above the Île Notre-Dame. And there it is.
On a cloudy but cool day, Captain John Moran and his crew. No rain so far. Hopefully it will hold off. After 10 laps, De Angelis, the world driving leader, has a close, tight lead over Michele Alboreto in the number 27 Ferrari. Alboreto is followed by teammate Johansson. Then comes the Renault of Patrick Tambay, the McLaren of Alain Prost, the other Renault. And then Nigel Mansell in the Williams. Mansell's teammate, Keke Rosberg from Finland, several years ago, the world champion. Dallas last year is out of this race. We've talked about Elio de Angelis finishing in the points in all 4 races so far this year. Third in the opening race in Rio de Janeiro. It was on to Portugal, where he was 4th. Then San Marino, where he won. Remember, Alain Prost actually won the race. They weighed the top cars. His car was 2 kilograms underweight. They don't like you having a light car to get a fuel advantage. And De Cesaris or De Angelis was declared the winner. De Angelis was 3rd at Monaco, and now Prost is really putting the pressure on Patrick Tambay.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Prost getting past Tambay. Here is the Niki Lauda that you're looking at right now. That's Lauda, and that there is, of course, the car of Derek Warwick that's just gone back out from the pits. He was in the pits. Lauda is up in the 10th position. This is 14th position. He's in 11th position right now, and he's fighting with Derek Warwick for that 10th spot. So that's Niki Lauda putting the pressure on.
There's Eddie Cheever, car number 22, the Alfa Romeo, and Cheever's running 6th.
Yep,
Excuse me, Patrese, and he is running 6th.
And that was Patrese we're looking at right now. That's him in the green car there with a white helmet, closely followed by, look at Lauda stalking him. He's going to try and get him under braking. He slipped under braking very nicely. So Niki Lauda, with his carbon fiber brakes, has slipped round on the hairpin, engaged first gear, accelerated away, and he puts himself into 10th position, having come up from 17th. Another steady drive by Lauda.
One of the arrows followed by Patrese, and we go back to the leader, the number 11 Lotus of Elio de Angelis. Live coverage of the 1985 Quebec Canadian Grand Prix, a race that will last 70 laps. We are in lap number 12.
And around those 70 laps, Elio de Angelis changes gear, incidentally, 31 times every lap. So that's 2,170 gear changes that young man has to make. And a very sensitive right hand he'll have. And there's Senna, got back out onto the racetrack from under our commentary position. He suddenly streaked past. You can't see it on your screen, but let us tell you that Ayrton Senna has rejoined this race. And look how close Alboreto has now got to the Lotus. Very close indeed.
Put the clock on it, Jackie. What is he?
He's now only about 2.5 seconds behind the Lotus, which means that the Lotus has caught him up by 2 healthy seconds.
We see the
Ferrari
challenge. Alboreto and the number 27 Ferrari now starting to put the pressure on De Angelis. Alboreto followed by Johansson, Tambay, Prost, Cheever, Mansell, Boutsen, Patrese back tonight. Niki Lauda, you saw him move up, is now 10th after starting in the number 17 position. Down through the far end of the course, it is Alboreto chasing Elio de Angelis. Alboreto with 3 second-place finishes so far this season. 1 2 years ago for your good friend Ken Tyrrell in the non-turbo Tyrrell in Detroit, and 1 last year for Ferrari in Belgium.
Well, Elio does drive very well, and he's not an easy man to pass, but if there's anybody can pass him, I would choose Alboreto. Alboreto's driving this year in the Monaco Grand Prix, for me, was just a piece of masterful handling. Not an easy racetrack to get past in Monte Carlo, and yet he was able to pass a lot of cars. So if we see a race develop here over these next few laps, and somebody has to get through, I would have to choose Alboreto as my man for getting past another vehicle.
And Jackie Alboreto and that number 27 Ferrari very much the people's choice here in Montreal.
Well, for obvious reasons, the number 27 was something that, and by the way, it is less than a second now from Alboreto to that Lotus. So that's really close. We've got it now.
As you were saying, these fans remembering the great Gilles Villeneuve, and we should mention that Gilles' father, Sylvain Villeneuve, came up to say hello to you just before today's race. He's in great spirits, talking about his son Jacques, who is racing on the kart series.
Yes, he's in the kart series in Portland, Oregon. The ESPN network will be seeing that later today. Incidentally, Danny Sullivan was in pole position there, and Jacques Villeneuve was back in ninth position. But look how close those two cars are right now. Two Italians, great for Italy.
And I'll tell you something, I think 70% of the fans here are Italian. The Italian flags are everywhere in Montreal. There's one of the arrows that looks like Butzer.
That's Berger, I think.
Is it Gerhard Berger, the Austrian?
I think it's Gerhard Berger, that one. The helmets are very difficult to recognize now for these drivers, and here's Niki Lauda again.
And once again, let's join Barry Gill.
Just an update, Jackie and Brian, on Ayrton Senna. While you've been watching Elio, he's gone out onto the track. The problem was a turbo, but not the turbo itself. It was one of those silly little things. The clamp that holds the turbo on is broken. It's a very awkward thing to get at. That's what cost all those laps. But Senna is back in the race.
And look at this. Alboreto challenging De Angelis. De Angelis, the pole sitter, has led the entire race so far. You are going to see the Ferrari move in just a matter of minutes.
Well, now this is tactics that you're looking at right now. There's two things that I said at the beginning of this race. One was brakes and the other one was fuel. And it's a question of being able to handle both of those carefully. And it'll be interesting to see how those two drivers play with it, because inside the cockpit of both of those cars are little knobs. And if they turn that knob to the right, they can turn up the horsepower by 100 horsepower without even blinking an eye. But when they turn up by 100 horsepower, they drink a lot more gasoline. And if they drink up gasoline now, they won't have it at the end of the race. So they've got to be very gentle, very progressive, and they've got to weigh it up whether they should go faster, keep the lead, and look at Alboreto now. He really is breathing, and I think he's going to pass. Here he goes, and he's trying to do it in a difficult spot. He was trying to go around the outside of De Angelis. I wouldn't have chosen quite there. You could see the smoke coming off of his tires. Just that pump. Look at him pulling along there now. Now, he's got his turbo boost up, but again, he's in the wrong line. He can't do it. He's in the wrong line to do it. Now he'll try to do it in the inside now. He won't accelerate past up there. Albo, I think, is teasing just a wee bit. He's pushing and shoving. Can he do it? He's done it. He's done it. He's done it. An enormous crowd rushed up there to their feet and yelled. We can hear them in here.
The number 27 Ferrari has taken the lead on the Circuit Villeneuve here in Montreal. So it is Alboreto first. The pole sitter, De Angelis, now running second. Here's the pass, Jackie, just past the start-finish area.
He did it very positively. He's using a lot more turbo boost. He's using a lot more power in that engine than De Angelis. De Angelis is more prudent with regards to fuel usage. Now, Ferrari feel they're going to make it in fuel. I heard them saying that earlier. But whether you could be that confident this early in the race is another thing.
And if viewers are just joining us this afternoon on CBC Sports Weekend or ESPN live coverage in the United States, let us run down the standings. Alboreto has taken the lead over the pole sitter De Angelis. Johansson, the other Ferrari, is running third. Tambay in a Renault is fourth. Prost, the first of the McLarens, two-time winner this year, is running in fifth. In sixth place, the number 23, Alpha of American, Eddie Cheever. Mansell in the Williams is seventh, followed by Boutsen in an Arrows, Patrese ninth in an Alpha, and Niki Lauda running 10th. And there is Niki Lauda, the defending world champion. Lauda, as he pursues Patrese, Lauda has only finished in the points once so far this season. Niki Lauda was fourth at San Marino.
And Terry Boutsen is the car that you're seeing in front there. That's the Arrows car. Barclay Arrows with the Benetton Alfa Romeo in green. And then the tag, Marlboro McLaren. But Niki Lauda carrying the colours of Lauda Air. He has a little airline in Austria that's called Lauda Air. Very successful nowadays, and he carries their colours as in the tailplane of his aircraft.
Funny you should mention that. Our producer, Lawrence Kimber, and I were in Zurich, Switzerland last winter on our way home from covering World Cup skiing, and there on the tarmac was one of the Lauda airplanes.
Yeah, well, he keeps himself busy. A great team flyer. He flew over here in his own Learjet, did Niki Lauda. Right now, the man that's flying is Alboreto. Very talented, very mature Italian driver. Not a very emotional man, and emotion, quite frankly, in a Grand Prix cockpit is more your enemy than it is your friend. You've got to keep very calm and very...
Und hat gesagt, ich habe die zweiten Plätze satt, ich möchte endlich wieder gewinnen.
You take liberty. And it's very difficult for a lap to be able to keep that kind of cool, calm and collected atmosphere, and certainly both of those drivers are clearly doing it now.
They are doing it indeed. It is Alboreto followed by De Angelis, Johansson, and Conde. And as we look down from the Goodyear Live America, our live coverage of the 1985 Labatt Grand Prix of Canada will continue.
Haftung. Alboreto 1,04 vor De Angelis, dann Johansson 6,2, Conde 7,4, Prost 10,3, dann Schiebermann von Dutzen, Patrese und Lauda 34 Sekunden zurück. Überrundet wird Gilzani mit dem Osella. Und was Ihnen die kanadischen Fernsehkameras im Augenblick leider nicht zeigen können, liebe Zuschauer, Niki Lauda hat Riccardo Patrese überholt und ist bereits 9. 8 Plätze hat Lauda bereits gut gemacht. Unglaublich. Niki Lauda an der 9. Stelle, 3 Gegner noch überholen oder 3 Ausfälle vorne und Lauda wäre bereits wieder in den Punkterängen. Super. Aber Walter Wolf, der österreichische Rennstallbesitzer von früher Ölmagnat, hat gestern nicht als einziger gesagt, Niki Lauda kann aus jeder Startposition.
The story here is Ferrari. They are now running first and third. The leader, the number 27 Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, as he is now pursued by De Angelis in second. There's car 28, the other Ferrari, Johansson, who is running third. It's interesting with Ferrari in the lead. Ferraris have won the Canadian Grand Prix 3 times. Jackie X in 1970 at Montreal, Quebec. Gilles Villeneuve in the number 27 Ferrari, the inaugural race on this course in 1978. And René Arnoux, now departed in 1983.
And there is the young Swede, Stefan Johansson. The little leaf, as they call him, in his native land. He has little leaves painted on his crash helmet. He looked at his mirror there. You saw his head just jolt to the side slightly. Well, that was him looking to see who was coming up behind him. As he waves his way through there, Patrick Tambay and the Renault. Patrick, the young Frenchman, very talented, good-looking man. Skied for France, no small talent. As we come into the hairpin, the slowest bend, and look at that, very nice. The Skull Bandit letting the 2 fast cars through. Alio allowed them just to get through there. Now that was a gentlemanly move. He could easily have taken his own line. Patrick Tambay in the Renault coming through there, developing all of those horsepower. There's Alio coming into the pits. He's got a problem in the Ram car, the Skull Bandit. Hasn't had a very good season so far.
Alio currently, Jackie, running in the number 18 position.
And just another little line-up there. Niki Lauda is soon going to get into 8th position, it seems to me. Niki Lauda is catching up as we watch the Skull Bandit. Not a lot of activity going on there. Alain Prost, we come back to. That is Prost, the car number 2, the Marlboro Tag McLaren. with the tag Porsche engine, and here you see the lead and the second place. Michele Alboreto driving the Ferrari, followed by the Lotus, of course, of De Angelis. Very bumpy, these racetracks nowadays. The suspension travel on these cars is very little because they try to get the car as close to the ground as possible, and every time there's suspension movement, it's complicated for the driver and for the chassis, so they try to make them quite firm. Silverstone, where the British Grand Prix will be held this year, a little puff of smoke coming off of De Angelis there, the inside front tyre just lifting ever so slightly under braking. And keep in mind that I mentioned earlier that brakes are a problem here, so the driver has to feel them just a little bit, and it could be that some of that brake feel is disappearing for De Angelis.
As we look at the lead Ferrari, number 27, Michele Alboreto. Earlier this week, Alboreto was asked about staying in shape. It's tremendously demanding to drive a race car, in particular under warm conditions, not too warm here today. He said, I jogged, and they said, have you been jogging this week in Montreal? He said, oh no, I never jogged the week of a race, that's too dangerous. Someone said, driving a race car is safe. He said, sure, there I know what I'm doing.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. Eddie Cheever, we were looking at right now. Eddie Cheever also is a jogger. He and Michele Alboreto live in Monaco together. And Eddie, that Alfa Romeo Benetton driver, they run together. They do usually 4 or 5 miles per day. Nothing heavy, but it's good for the cardiovascular. Eddie Cheever, there he goes. Accelerating hard out of the slowest corner, almost of this first gear corner for some of the cars. Second gear for the Alfa Romeo.
Eddie Cheever, pursued by England's Nigel Mansell, and the number 5 Williams. He is currently 7th. His teammate, former world champion Keke Rosberg. As we look at the American Cheever, Rosberg, by the way, is running in the number 12 position. 20th lap out of 70 at Montreal. It is Alboreto, De Angelis, Johansson, Conway, Prost, Cheever, Mansell. Thierry Boutsen is running 8th. Niki Lauda up to the number 9 position. Running 10th is Patrese, then Warwick, number 11. And we have just had a change. Lauda moves up another position. Lauda is making his move just as we had predicted.
However, De Angelis has certainly dropped back from the Ferrari. He certainly lost a lot of ground in the last 2 laps. Look at the gap there. Alboreto disappearing. There he is, Alboreto, and here comes De Angelis. He's, I think, lost about 1.5 seconds. Somebody having troubles up at the hairpin there, a little, and that there being Keke Rosberg went wide, spun almost, managed to keep it together, and is continuing around the racetrack, but that could have been expensive for Rosberg.
Rosberg was running in the number 12 position. He went out earlier, came back in. As we look at the leader, De Angelis.
A lot of that trouble at the hairpin, I think, could be said about braking. I think a lot of these, about after 8 laps, the brakes start to be affected. And what happens is that the brakes themselves get so hot that the brake fluid starts to boil, and it gets air in the system. And the brake pedal for the driver gets longer, like there's air in the system. That's exactly what's happening. And the brake pedal is not consistent. Very uncomfortable when you're driving on the road, but extremely dangerous and very uncomfortable for those race drivers.
And you see Alboreto just passing Pierluigi Martini. That is car number 29. There's Alboreto, followed by Martini. He has lapped Martini. The Minardi and U team, the Formula One Racing, they have only 1 car here in Montreal.
Well, that has certainly given Alboreto a more comfortable lead as he comes up behind. That there is Stefan Belloff. He's coming up behind there. Martini being passed. He's already started. Martin Brundle is the blue car, the Tyrrell team car there that De Angelis is just leading. He's already been lapped. High above in the Goodyear blimp once again. Elio de Angelis in 2nd place now.
Jackie, he is now trailing by roughly 2.3 seconds. Johansson 7 seconds back. The blue flag signaling to Martini that Johansson wants to go by. Johansson in the number 28 Ferrari is currently running 3rd, just over 7 seconds behind his teammate. Patrick Tambay The Renault is fourth, nearly 10 seconds back.
Oh, that was an incredible bit of bumping there. That was really, Martini spun off there. To be quite frank with you, I think he was pretty heavily manhandled there. It looked like it was from Nigel Mansell. Keke Rosberg has gone into the pits. No, it's the Renault. It's Patrick Canby. He really did move over pretty hard on Martini there. It was a little bit aggressive. He wanted to be sure of getting in there, but he could have involved himself in as much trouble as he did Martini. He got off with it. Martini just spun out. Martini has never been a factor in this race, whereas, of course, Patrick Canby very much is. Michele?
Motor Racing's 85 coverage of the Grand Prix Labatt de Canada will continue in a moment.
Er wollte mich kurz unterbrechen. Niki Lauda hat Thierry Boutsen bereits überholt und ist schon an der 8. Stelle mit einem Rückstand von 46 Sekunden. Jetzt auf den führenden Alboreto und 13 Sekunden auf Nigel Mansell, der vor ihm an der 7. Stelle liegt. Es war ja vorhin Rosberg, der sich gedreht hat und nicht Nigel Mansell. Das haben Sie aber ohnehin alles gesehen, wie ich Ihnen gesagt habe. Lauda bleibt also in Rennen um die Punkte und Sie haben ja gestern angekündigt, Herr Wolf, Niki Lauda kann aus jeder Startposition gewinnen, sogar aus der 17.
Ja, das ist keine Frage darüber. Denke ich, hat er jetzt gezeigt, wie er die Stelle auf 8 gelandet hat. Und jetzt muss der Rennen vorbei, jetzt kann es zusammenbleiben, wenn er ganz schön erst rein.
Sind Sie sehr aufgeregt, Herr Wolf?
Nein, nicht. Ich schaue nur gerne zu. In Montreal, auf der Rennstrecke, wir haben das erste Rennen.
Due for a win this year. He really should have won Monte Carlo, in my opinion. He deserved to win Monte Carlo, and he was done out of it, frankly, by picking up a nail or a piece of glass or something foreign on the racetrack, and he had a puncture. But he drove a beautiful race, and he really should have a win. This would certainly make the World Championship a great deal more interesting by him being able to win here if he allows the car to last that long.
You mentioned the World Championship. Right now, De Angelis, who is running second today, is first in the world standings with 20 points. Alain Prost with 2 victories. Into the pits comes Martini. Alain Prost with 2 victories is tied with Alboreto second, 2 points back. Conway is in 4th place. Ayrton Senna is 5th. So De Angelis, the world leader, is now running second to Michele Alboreto. They're doing work on the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini.
Well, there's a picture of Martini there, very young driver, quite inexperienced. They got a new engine in that car designed by Titi, who used to be with Alfa Romeo, and this engine's performed very well for its first season in racing. Eddie Cheever again. And there you see Nigel Mansell, Keke Rosberg, he's back in the pits again. Eddie Cheever driving extremely well nowadays, maturing very, very much as a driver.
Eddie Cheever right now is standing in the number 7 position, 33 seconds as we look at Nigel Mansell behind the leader, Michele Alboreto. Jackie, I saw Cheever before the race, more relaxed than he's been in previous years. It almost looked like he was trying to get a suntan here today.
Well, it's interesting actually. Both Mansell and Cheever, the 2 cars in your picture now, have been to McGill University and been going through during the winter season a program with the PhDs, the professors of medicine at McGill University, to get a fitness program put together for themselves. And that has helped both of them. They feel very much. They've got their cardiovascular thing down. Incidentally, that's Michele Alboreto passing Mark Stura, the Brabham driver. He's lapping him. Oh! Stura didn't see him. He didn't see him. He could have chopped off the front wing and the front wheel of Alboreto's car there. Now, he looked in his mirror. Did you see him? There he's looking again. He has seen him, but in the meantime, and we see the replay of this, Alboreto thought he was okay. Had to go over the curb. That kind of thing can damage a suspension unit. It can be extremely competitive. But look how the Lotus is closed right up there. The Lotus is really now competitive, all because of being balked on that one corner by Sura. And look at the Lotus closing up under braking. Now Alboreto. Is he worried by that front wing? Alboreto's in trouble. He's going to be passed. It looked like gear selection coming out of the corner there. Alboreto still manages to hold it, but he seemed to be slightly sluggish out of there. and he's been able to pull away. This McGill University thing, incidentally, was very interesting to me because I was always fairly fit when I drove racing cars. It's absolutely essential that a driver keeps himself in good physical condition. The pulse rate they can get in a race car, you know, I had readings right up to 200 beats per minute in pulse rate while driving a car on the very fast corners. The highest one, incidentally, that Nigel Mansell got earlier this week was a low reading of 158. And that was because there's no really fast corners in this racetrack. But a race driver loses about 5 or 6 pounds in a race, you know, maybe 2 to 3 kilos in a race, which is a lot. So it's very important to be able to keep that kind of fitness. And it's interesting that they both came to McGill to do this, as also did Patrick Tambay and Senna. He's not comfortable. You know, he's worried about that situation. He went over that curve, but he's not all that comfortable with that car. He needs another lap to settle back in again. There we have a walk back. That's there, Warwick walking back. Derek Warwick, who's been in the pit several times. He's had a problem, a major one for today. But at least he's walking on, Brian.
And as they complete lap number 26, Michele Alboreto in front of Elio de Angelis, followed by Stefan Johansson, Patrick Tambay, Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, Eddie Cheever, Niki Lauda running eighth, and Lauda is nearly 45 seconds behind Alboreto.
Jacques Lafitte, who's not really in contention here, way back in 17th position, incidentally, has been penalized 4 minutes for jumping the start. So that position that we're giving you, 12th position, is probably not going to be nearly correct in the end result. If you jump the flag, of course, you do get penalized. Nowadays it's a green light instead of a flag, but he certainly did anticipate the start.
Ferrari trying to win here in Montreal for the second time in 3 years. They would be their 4th win overall in the Canadian Grand Prix. Brabham and McLaren have each won the Canadian Grand Prix on 4 occasions. Ferrari has won it 3 times. Hero, both by Jackie Stewart, 71 and 72, has won it twice. Williams, Alan Jones also winning twice, back-to-back in 79 and 80. Live coverage of the 1985 Labatt Canadian Grand Prix will continue.
Die Bremsschaltpunkte genau eingetreten. Berger, Alboreto, De Angelis, blaue Flaggensignale. Berger wird den Spitzenkampf sicherlich nicht beeinflussen. Schauen Sie, wie problemlos und mühelos der Alboreto jetzt vorbeigelassen hat. Würde man sich von vielen anderen Fahrern wünschen, die immer dann groß in Erscheinung treten, wenn sie schneller blockieren, und jetzt ebenso. Gerhard Berger hat auch De Angelis passieren lassen, hat also das Spitzenduell in keiner Weise beeinflusst. Niki Lauda an 8. Stelle, 11 Sekunden hinter Eddie Cheever. 9 Sekunden bereits für Thierry Boutsen, dem also jetzt innerhalb von 3 Runden um 9 Sekunden davor gefahren ist. Alboreto.
As we come back live to Montreal after 28 of 70 laps, Michele Alboreto in the number 27 Ferrari is leading Elio de Angelis by just under 1 second. De Angelis started in the pole position. He is slowing down, Jackie Stewart.
Yeah, De Angelis suddenly lost an advantage. I think he's okay. I think he's maybe missed a gear change or suddenly had a little bit of a problem. Alan Prost doesn't seem to be having too much of a problem. He's a dark horse here. Alan Prost is just cruising along very carefully, conserving his fuel, and at the same time being in a position not to be too far behind if he really needs to do anything. I'd keep an eye on him. I reckon that he would probably finish second or third in this race.
Johansson there is running third, followed by this man, Patrick Tambay, in the number 15 Renault. Angela started in the pole position, led for the first several laps, was then passed by Alboreto. Senna out of the race. His teammate, the young Brazilian, certainly one of the favorites. Tambay driving a strong, steady race, 10.48 seconds right now behind Alboreto.
Patrick Tambay is not a small man, quite a big man. We were talking about his fitness earlier on. He weighs about 72.5 kilos. Not any small, skinny young man. But of course, you've got to be strong too to handle those things.
And Jackie, he is fourth right now in the world standings with 10 points. Trails the leader, De Angelis, who has 20. And he's behind Prost and Alboreto with 18 each. The current standings in this Canadian Grand Prix. Alboreto, De Angelis, Johansson, Tambay, Prost, Mansell, Niki Lauda is still running 8th after starting in the number 17 position. Across the start-finish line is Alboreto, followed by De Angelis. De Angelis now starting to work his way back in. He's trailed by as much as 5 or 6 seconds, has been within a second, is now, as he went by the last time, we had him at roughly 2.3 seconds out of the lead.
With the brake horsepower that these cars run, around about 800 horsepower in the race, up to 850, and in qualifying they can push that horsepower up to about 1,000 brake horsepower. There they would change from first to second to third to fourth to fifth very quickly. Alboreto going round there, he changes gear around here 31 times every lap, as also does De Angelis.
Jackie, who would change gears, you know, the most on this track?
Well, in fact, Ayrton Senna told me that he changed gear 34 times, which was by far the fastest and most often that anybody changed. The least was Martin Brundle, who told me he only changed 23. Now, of course, he's in the normally aspirated Ford Cosworth engine and doesn't have the turbo boost and so forth that everybody else has. He only did 23. Interestingly, Alan Prost only changes gear 24 times, and then next was Patrick Tambay at 27 times. It's interesting because Tambay and Senna run the same engine, the Renault engine. One changes 34 times, the other changes 27 times. That's considerable difference. A lot of drivers jump through gears, you know, when you're going through like De Angelis is right now, he'll be in fifth gear right now. Now he goes into third gear for his. He may jump straight from fifth to third, rather than going from fifth to fourth to third at the same time. It's a little simpler on the transmission if you don't get your timing right, but of course it does save another effort and another little bit of time. So of course it allows the driver to think more about the corner rather than about changing gear.
We are approaching the halfway mark of this 70 lap for that Canadian Grand Prix on the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on Île Notre-Dame in Montreal, as De Angelis, the world driving leader, is chasing Alboreto. Both Italian drivers.
Oh, there's an accident at one of the fastest parts of the racetrack. It looks like Eddie Cheevers. No, it's one of the Skull Bandits. One of the Skull Bandits, I think, is Ram Winkelhawk.
Or Alio,
It's Alio, the white helmet. I think it's Alio. He's getting out of the car, which is good news, because that's in a very fast place indeed. That is a tricky one. Now, they'll have to look out for the debris there. Look at it across the racetrack. Very important. The drivers pay a great deal of attention. Here is the replay. He spins at one of the fastest parts. He hits backwards, then spins in forward to the track. Now, these chassis are now made of composite carbon fiber. They're very strong. They allow a driver to survive where in the past, the space frame cars, surely they would have had leg injuries and a great many more opportunities for considerable injury. At a speed I would estimate where he approached that accident, he would have been doing no less, I would say, than about 160 miles an hour or 165 miles an hour going through there. So I don't know what that is in kilometers, but it's fairly fast.
Jackie, what about the cars going over this debris? They have to be concerned about tires.
Well, that's one of the major things. You know, when the car that you're looking at right now, Alboreto, had to come into the pits in Monte Carlo having picked up some debris and having a puncture. These racing cars are extremely thin because they've got to be very light. It's a sacrifice that you make when that happens, because if there is anything formed on the racetrack that you could pick up with a sharp edge, and having an accident like we've just seen, a lot of that stuff is part of the car, it's metal, it's fiberglass, and of course that can easily cause a puncture, can cut a car or puncture a car. So the driver has to be very careful when going through that debris to make sure that he's not running over anything substantial.
Philippe Alliot in the number 10 Ram Hard as we look at the finish area, the start-finish area from the Goodyear Blimp America. Very, very lucky, A, that he was not injured, Jackie, and B, that he wasn't being closely followed by another car, because right now, Alboreto is coming through the start-finish area into the area where the accident occurred, and as you say, that is one of the fastest areas on this course. The yellow flag is still out. That is the caution flag.
And by the way, Alboreto's opened up the gap again from De Angelis. De Angelis certainly dropped back considerably there. So Alboreto has put on a little bit of pressure there. There's no sign of De Angelis. No sign of De Angelis. He's only in the shot now. You can see the car coming in on the left-hand side. There is the distance behind, and you know that he's a lot further back now than he was before. They will try and clear the track just a little bit, Brian, but the marshals can't get out and sweep the track because the speed of the cars approaching there is just much too high. They will allow the cars themselves with the after draft of the cars, the wind that the cars bring behind them, to clear a lot of that stuff away. If there was anything big out there, obviously the marshals would have to go out into the track and clear it. There is the young Swede, Stefan Johansson. There is Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier with Johansson coming up behind him.
ESPN's coverage of the 1985 Canadian Grand Prix of Canada will continue in a moment.
Lafitte an 17. Stelle, weil er ja wie gesagt eine Strafminute hat. Ui, und da hier sahen Sie Schwierigkeiten für Patrick Tambay. Schwierigkeiten bereits mit seinen Reifen nach erst 34 Runden, also noch vor halber Distanz im Grand Prix von Kanada. Würde mich nicht wundern, gäbe es in der Endphase dieses Grand Prix noch einige Boxenstopps zum Reifenwechsel. Giancarlo Ghizani mit dem Osella fährt das Tempo von Tambay mit. Jetzt wird das Wrack von Philippe Alliot langsam weggebracht werden müssen. Und darum auch die weiße Flagge, um die Fahrer zu warnen. Weiße Flagge heißt immer wieder Einsatzfahrzeug auf der Strecke. Das kann ein Ambulanzwagen, ein Rettungswagen sein, ein Sicherheitsfahrzeug oder natürlich auch ein in langsamer Fahrt befindlicher Rennwagen. Ghizani und dahinter der fast ausgerutschte Patrick Tambay hat aber korrigieren und den Renault abfangen können. Fährt weiter, unverändert, 4. Platz, 16 Sekunden hinter Alboreto, 6 Sekunden vor Alain Prost. Und dahinter natürlich der überrundete Lafitte. Tambay 16,6 Sekunden Rückstand auf Alboreto. Tambay hat ja keine schlechte Saison. 5.
For those of you just joining us today, this Villeneuve circuit very hard on both fuel and brakes. There is Alain Prost, a man that knows about running out of fuel. We are halfway through the race. They have now completed, the leaders have, Alboreto and De Angelis, 35 laps. Alain Prost right now there, car number 2, is running in the number 5 position, 20 seconds out of the lead. That picture furnished courtesy the Goodyear Blimp, the American. Champion Jackie Stewart, and one of Britain's foremost racing journalists, Barry Gill. Hope you're enjoying the 1985 Canadian Grand Prix. Alain Prost, car number 2, won the inaugural race of the year in Rio de Janeiro. Also won for the second straight year at Monte Carlo. This year, Jackie Stewart, you remember as well, the race went the full distance. It was 1 year ago. Our racing fans might remember we carried the race, but it was called halfway through because of the rain, and Ayrton Senna was livid at the time. Young Senna figured he had a real shot at winning his first Grand Prix.
While Alain Prost there going round there with his turbo boost quietly turned down. He will be revving that engine up to around 12,000 revs. The Ferrari there you're looking at right now, number 28, Stefan Johansson, coming through. Johansson in third position, a very comfortable position for him. Going through one of the slowest corners of the racetrack. First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. 5 gears in the Ferrari, looking at his mirror, just cocking his head to the side, looking at his right-hand mirror. The double yellow flags there because they've got a truck there. You can see the truck with the flashing light, removing the damaged car of Elio. Just in case another car goes into that, it's an accident that can occur, and if a racing car collides with what they call a dead car, it can worsen the accident considerably. The great Clay Regazzoni, the Ferrari driver who was driving a Williams at the Long Beach Grand Prix, crashed into the back of another car and frankly has never recovered from it, has been paralyzed from the waist down. So they like to try and get cars that are no longer in the race, either damaged or just retired, away from the track.
Well, it's been a rough afternoon here in Montreal, out of the race. The defending champion 2 years ago, the world champion Nelson Piquet. He also won here in 1983. Philippe Alliot, you saw the Ram. He is so lucky to not be seriously injured. Manfred Winkelhock out of the race, and all 5 cars out. As we look at the leader, Alboreto, passing Martini in the Minardi. If you're just joining us this afternoon, I'm sure you're wondering about Ayrton Senna, the young Brazilian. Ayrton Senna today, who started second behind his teammate De Angelis, just ahead of Alboreto and Johansson. They tell me right now, our statistician Ken Tiro Jr. tells me he is roughly 6 laps out of the lead. Now, Senna was running right up there, but had to come into the pits. He is back in the race. Ayrton Senna will not be a factor here this afternoon.
Grand crowd turned out at Montreal, a beautiful city, and this racetrack is almost a stone's throw away from downtown Montreal on the island of the Île Notre-Dame. The circuit, quite correctly called the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve won this Labatt Grand Prix of Canada on his very first running in 1978. It was a fairy tale come true for a Canadian driver to win the race for the first time here.
Gilles Villeneuve won here in 1978, Jackie. He was second here in 1979 and third here in 1981. And in case you didn't hear it earlier, his father, Seville Villeneuve, joined us earlier today up here in the booth. Very much still a Formula One racing fan.
Now Patrese is just about to be passed, another Italian driver, by De Angelis. De Angelis looking for a place to get past Patrese. Patrese is not the easiest man to pass. It was he who had the collision with Nelson Piquet in Monte Carlo, but a clean pass there by De Angelis in the black. John Player special. John Player has been very much involved with Grand Prix racing. They were the first major company to come in with major advertising on the side of Grand Prix cars way back in 1968 it was, with Jim Clark and Graham Hill. It was the Gold Leaf Team Lotus in those days, and of course they're still in the sport today, and it's John Player's Team Lotus. They've stayed with the same team.
I'm sure most of the viewers don't realize the tremendous revenue that comes from the advertising on the car and also the advertising on the driver.
Oh, enormous. A great investment in Grand Prix racing today. It does cost a great deal of money to go Grand Prix racing, so therefore the sponsors, the McLaren tag, Marlboro link up, for example, is probably costs around $15 million a year US to keep that team running. It's a very expensive operation. McLaren, for example, came here with 30 people to Montreal, a staff of 30 people, including engineers and mechanics and catering people and all of the people that they have to look after these 2 cars. Now, of course, they bring about, they would have 10 engines, and here we have another. That's Canzani's car that stopped hard up against the rail there. Canzani's car, the Ocello, parked rather well. He couldn't get much closer to that barrier, could he?
And speaking of barriers, Jackie, Derek Warwick and the number 16 Renault has collided with a barrier, and Warwick is out of this race.
But he's okay. That's the main thing. There's been no injuries today to any of those drivers. And here we have Niki Lauda in the pits. Niki Lauda, not having a good season at all, is in the pits. the three-time world champion, winner of 24 Grand Prix victories. He's the man most likely to beat my record of 27. He's not going to do it today, I don't think. Nicky flew over here in his own Learjet. Speaking with that, you can see the cord running to his helmet. There's a microphone in that helmet there. He's able to communicate with Ron Dennis, who's the team manager of that mighty Marlboro McLaren tag tie-up. Niki Lauda, still badly burnt from his horrific accident in 1976. In my opinion, he is the bravest man that I know in sport. The most courageous effort that I've ever seen has been that return made by Niki Lauda. Nigel Mansell, the Williams car, rushing through his 6-speed gearbox and his Honda engine round this racetrack. The Williams car uses the Honda. A lot of the great-sized companies nowadays involved in motor racing, and Honda are one of them. They spent about $15 million so far in their engine, just in engine development alone.
You mentioned big companies involved in motor racing. We have learned here this week that the Beatrice people, the food people in the United States, will sponsor a team. It will be officially announced next week in Detroit. They have talked Alan Jones into coming out of retirement in Australia, a former world champion, to drive for Beatrice. Now, you were talking about the engines. They won't confirm it, but I hear that the Ford Motor Company in Detroit is coming into Formula One racing and will have Ford engines in that Jones-Beatrice car. It's all over for Lauda.
Well, oddly enough, there's speculation that Lauda might be driving that Beatrice car next year. That's one of the rumors going around here in Montreal. Whose engine will be used in that car is still very much in speculation, but Ford are coming back into Grand Prix motor racing. They are producing a turbocharged engine. But whose team will be using it has not yet been announced. Niki Lauda has taken his helmet off. The car is being pushed away. I rather think Nicholas will be heading towards his Learjet. I know he's going to fly off to Arizona to where Lear make their aircraft tonight, in fact, so he may get an early start.
Well, it's somewhat of a surprise because Niki Lauda, who has finished in the points only once this year in the 4 previous races, he was fourth at San Marino. Niki Lauda was by far and away the best driver. He had the best car in practice this morning. He started in the number 17 position and worked his way up to the number 7 position. And the way that car was running this morning, the buzz in pit row was that Lauda would indeed make a strong showing here. Very good.
1985 Canadian Grand Prix on ESPN will continue after these messages.
Little bit of damage to the car. It's not because of an accident at all, is it? You haven't had any problem?
No, I ran over some wreckage of the accident there.
For the Elio car. Bad luck, Nicky. Thank you for talking to us.
Ja, also Motorschaden beim Kack-Turbo. Schade, dass Diplom-Ingenieur Hans Metzger an diesem Wochenende nicht in Montreal dabei ist, der aber Freitag in Wien hat dort den begehrten Porsche-Preis für ungewöhnliche technische Innovationen entgegennehmen dürfen. Schade. Ein Österreicher, also noch im Rennen, Gerhard Berger, eine Runde Rückstand an 12. Stelle. Er trägt also jetzt als einziger noch österreichischen Hoffnungen in diesem Grand Prix. Ich kann mir nicht vorstellen, dass Lauda den Motor überdreht hat. Ich glaube, man hat bei McLaren und bei Porsche und auch bei Porsche den Motor so eingestellt, dass man etwa mit dem gleichen Ladedruck üblicherweise fahren kann, mit einem Zehntel weniger, also mit etwa 2,3 statt 2,4 Bar Ladedruck. Nein, es wird in der Weltmeisterschaft natürlich langsam kritisch. Alboreto, de Angelis und Prost, die in der Weltmeisterschaft ja deutlich vor Niki Lauda liegen, sind alle drei noch im Rennen. Von den Weltmeisterschaft-Titelanwärtern ausgeschieden nur Ayrton Senna. Oder besser gesagt, nicht mehr im Rennen um die Punkte, weil Senna einen Rückstand von 5 Runden hat. Ich habe gesehen, er ist nach seinem ziemlich schweren Turboschaden wieder ins Rennen gegangen, aber Wie soll er einen Rückstand von 5 Runden jemals wieder gut machen? Senna im Augenblick jedenfalls an 18. auf letzter Stelle. Niki Lauda also mit Motorschaden ausgeschieden. Theo Fabi ist wieder auf der Strecke, aber nur noch um sein Auto, den Tollman, zu testen. Busse gegen Patrese, Kampf um den 9.
And I have to believe he is driving his race at this point. Whether he accelerates closer to the end of the race when he is most confident about his fuel and his brakes is another matter. But he can't give too much space before he starts that charge if he expects to win. That's assuming that the cars ahead of them have got quite enough fuel to last the race. If you're watching this race at home, for goodness sake, don't go away or switch channels, because this could be the most important part of the race. And I think you might see the most drama coming up here, because fuel is going to be a story.
And of course, this Montreal circuit, as Eddie Cheever said, neither really fast nor really slow. It is just tough on brakes and fuel. And Alain Prost remembers the fuel story in San Marino. Ayrton Senna was leading with about 4 laps to go. He ran out of fuel. Senna now running about 6 laps back in this race. He was passed by Johansson in the number 28 Ferrari. As we look at Johansson's teammate, the leader Alboreto, Johansson then ran out of gas with 2 laps to go at San Marino. And believe me, folks, this course is much tougher on fuel and brakes than San Marino. It is Michele Alboreto. Now by 5.5 seconds over De Angelis, and I understand Circuit Gilles standing by with Renault's Derek Wood.
You looked so happy when we saw you on the grid. You're obviously very confident. What went wrong? Yesterday, when we ran on full tanks, the car was very good. We were doing low 29. And today the car was jumping all over the place and very, very difficult to drive. Fastest lap doing 32.5. So somewhere from yesterday until today, the car's been changed, and it's impossible. What happened to put you out? Around the back of the circuit, there's a lot of marbles and rubber off the line, and I went into the corner, just touched the curb, went about 6 inches offline, hit the marbles, and went into the barrier. How badly was the car damaged? Just basically burst the 2 tires, so I couldn't get back. Well, bad luck, Derek. Better luck in Detroit, and thanks for talking to us. Thank you very much. Derek Warwick, not making any excuses. Over to you, Jackie.
Well, thank you, Barry. We look at Elio de Angelis coming through there with the Lotus, not sliding the car too much, just threading it through there, but he's far enough behind Alboreto that he's not threatening him at this moment.
We look at the Lotus. It is powered by a Renault engine. That fell off in the Tyrrell number 4. The Lotus is powered by a Renault engine. The Renault engines have won 2 races so far this year, both for Lotus, Senna and De Angelis. Renault cars, though, have had all kinds of trouble finishing. Warwick, we just heard from, was 7th in Portugal, 5th in Monaco. His teammate, Patrick Tambay, who right now is running in the number 4 position, was 5th in Brazil, 3rd in Portugal, and 3rd in San Marino. Jackie Stewart, I know you have a great fondness for Ken Tyrrell and the Tyrrell Racing team, and I understand that Tyrrell, for the French Grand Prix in the near future, will have Renault turbo engines.
Yeah, this is a great thing for Ken. He's been struggling very hard for the last 2 years when every other team's had turbo power. Ken's been running with a normally aspirated Ford Cosworth engine, and frankly, it's no longer fast enough to keep up with the great speed and great power of the turbocharged motors. So Ken finally has succumbed and has got Renault to agree to give him an engine. Martin Brundle will run on the French Grand Prix and the British Grand Prix. At this time, they're only going to have 1 car with a Renault engine to begin with, and then Stephen Belloff, Stefan will drive in the German and Austrian Grand Prix. So that'll be turbo power for the complete field, because Ken Tyrrell's 2 cars, are the only non-turbocharged cars in this race.
And I believe they are the last non-turbo team to win a race, that being, no, let me see, did Williams have a turbo when Rosberg won in Dallas? I'm not sure.
No, that was with the Honda engine.
All right. The non-turbo Tyrrells won in Detroit 2 years ago. That was Michele Alboreto.
And that was the last time that a non-turbo won. We're looking at Patrick Tambay as he passes the wreckage of his teammate on the left-hand side of the racetrack, Derek Warwick. Patrick Tambay coming through there very comfortably.
You talked about Niki Lauda being a pilot. On the subject of Tyrrells, Ken Tyrrell Jr. is a pilot for British Airways. Ken and his wife Sandra here with us as usual at the Canadian Grand Prix as they keep track of the laps and keep us up to date on exactly what's happening. On the 46th lap of this 1985 Labatt Canadian Grand Prix, it is Michele Alboreto now by 5.4 seconds over De Angelis. You are looking at Tambay. He is running fourth. Johansson third. Prost is now fifth. Mansell sixth. Rosberg, we mentioned, a winner in Dallas in that searing heat, a race they nearly canceled. They did actually cancel Belgium this year. Prior to that, Dallas was the closest they had ever come to canceling a race for track conditions. Rosberg is now running seventh. There is Alain Prost. Alain Prost in McLaren, a winner in Monaco for the second year in a row, and he won the opening race of the season in Rio de Janeiro. Jackie, I know you've talked to Alain about pressure. You're a three-time world champion. Everywhere he goes, people are saying, is this the year you're going to win it? He's led in the past. Of course, he ended up losing last year after having a big lead by half a point to his teammate Niki Lauda. We'll get back to more on that in just a minute. I understand Barry Gill is standing by.
Well, there you see Teo Fabi having an early lunch, as we say in football. The Dolman team not having a good time. Peter Geddin, you know what it's like to win. You won at Monza. You're beginning to learn what it's like to lose, aren't you?
Oh, yes. I know this is motor race.
Tell me what happened to the Dolman team today, because the drama began on the grid.
On his race car, we had problems with the turbo. We fitted a new one. All the new parts to do in it on the warm-up lap. That was showing 40, so we put the spare car out. The spare car was good for the lap, but unfortunately it had a fuel leak. So we then had to revert back to the race car, which we knew had a turbo problem. It lasted one lap, so we changed the turbo just to do some testing, and it all proved we got problems.
Jackie, the other side of motor racing from Peter Geddin, and he can still smile.
Well, Peter Geddin, thank you, Barry. Peter Geddin won the Italian Grand Prix driving for BRM a good few years ago. I was in the same race, and he beat me, so that'll deserve him right today.
You saw car number 12. That is Ayrton Senna, a young driver from Brazil, certainly one of the favorites here. Senna in the number 12 Lotus is roughly 6 or 7 laps back. He was running near De Angelis, started in the number 2 position behind his teammate, but came into the pits, was in for actually a long period of time, and is simply driving it out here in Montreal.
A couple of things happening here, incidentally. That's Nigel Mansell you're looking at right now, but a couple of things. Stefan Johansson is picking up space on Elio de Angelis. He's only 2.8 seconds behind now as we have it here, so that's very close. So Stefan Johansson is certainly coming into this race. That's the car, of course, of Alboreto who's leading, but Johansson is really within a second now of the car of De Angelis. Whether De Angelis is going slower or whether Johansson's going faster, we'll have to get you to find that out in a few moments. Alboreto certainly seems to have some breathing space. That's him coming through those weeds, and there's yet no sign of De Angelis. So there's your man in the lead. 48 laps completed. He's well away there. He's pulling away there, and no sign at all of Elio de Angelis. Now, it could be that you're going to see a Ferrari 1-2 before too long here. That would be something.
Doppel für Ferrari. Bei mir jetzt der Franzose Philippe Alliot, einer der Unfallopfer dieses dramatischen Grand Prix in Montreal. Philippe, wie ist das passiert?
Ich weiß nicht. Ich war in die Kurve und die Wagen ist gern straight.
Gerade ausgefahren, die sich nicht einlenken. Ist es sehr rutschig an dieser Stelle, sehr glatt.
Ich weiß nicht, ich habe eine Mistake gemacht. Was ist Mistake?
Ein Fehler?
Ein Fehler gemacht oder if something is broken the car.
Also irgendwas am Wagen ist gebrochen. Achtung, wir sehen jetzt wieder einmal ein Duell, und zwar zwischen Elio de Angelis und Johansson um den...
Now they're accelerating out first gear, second gear, third gear. And for the moment, we've gone back to Alan Prost. At the far end of the racetrack, of course, that battle we were looking at coming out of close to Montreal. But there is Alan Prost in the meantime. Prost is catching up there. He's catching up on Tambay. He's right up. That's a race for fourth position, Patrick Tambay. We've got two great races going on here for third place, second and third, and for fourth and fifth, because that is Tambay leading with Prost close behind. I think Prost is going to pass Tambay. There he goes. He's done it. Something strange happened to Tambay there. Tambay backed right off. Tambay's in trouble. Tambay's in trouble. Prost just passed him too easily, Brian.
Right now, it is a three-man race. Alboreto, De Angelis,
Look at this. This is them trying to get through it. He's going right side by side. He can't make that.
and Johansson, and there's Johansson as he tried to move into second.
Yep, that was that move, but he just couldn't go past there. He went right there side by side. What a move. We may well see a replay of that in a few minutes, because that was classic racing, but Johansson had no chance at all. He was in the outside of the line. He was out in the marbles, but he, I think, will pass Elio de Angelis. I think you're going to see Johansson taking second place very soon. Look at that. De Angelis is using more road than he needed. He went right off the road there. He had his foot on the grass there. A lot of pressure for De Angelis. His car has definitely got less adhesion. He's using more road, a little more skittish. Johansson's car is much more positive on the ground right now. I would look at the left rear tire of De Angelis. I'm not absolutely sure whether that is starting to go flat. You see a profile of a rear tire, and it just seemed to me that it was slightly down in the middle. I may be wrong. Maybe I'm seeing things, but the coverage here by CBC has been so good that we can take great camera positions here. But what a race this is. There's Alboreto in the lead. He's out on his own. That's him there.
Here's the pass you're talking about.
And here's the replay. Look at De Angelis on the left-hand side. He's got the line right. He's got the line. There's no way that Johansson can get past on the outside. And in fact, if Elio De Angelis wanted to be really nasty, and that's the same again. That's live this time. That's live. He's done it again, for God's sake. Here he's going to pass. He's trying to do it. He's done it. He's done it. Ferrari, first and second.
And for you trivia buffs, Ferrari has been 1-2 in the Canadian Grand Prix only once. That was in 1970 at Montreal, Quebec, when Jackie Ickx was first in a Ferrari and Clay Regazzoni was second. Right now, it's Ferrari, and Lotus. The Ferraris have been first and third here in 1978, Gilles Villeneuve and Carlos Reutemann. And in 1983, René Arnoux and Patrick Tambay. Right now, Ferrari trying to finish 1-2 for only the second time in the history of the Canadian Grand Prix. But remember, this course is so very, very tough on fuel and brakes. Alain Prost is lurking back in the number 4 position. They've got that fuel computer on board the McLaren. The race is far from over. We're on lap 51. This is a 70-lap race. It is Alboreto now by 8 seconds over Johansson. De Angelis is running third. Alain Prost is fourth, followed by Patrick Tambay, Nigel Mansell, and Keke Rosberg. But the story is the two Ferraris and the Lotus as Michele Alboreto comes by in front of this large, enthusiastic Montreal crowd.
Viva Ferrari, they're shouting. A lot of Italians in Montreal. The place seems to be made up of Italians right now. I see Ferrari flags all over the place. So the Italian driver in the Italian car, he won the Belgian Grand Prix last year. That was the first time in 18 years that a An Italian driver had won in an Italian car, so that was a pretty good record for him to have. Ferrari over here in strength have brought 27 people over here. One of their mechanics is one of the longest-serving mechanics in the Formula One trail. The mechanic Bellintani has been 22 years in the business. Man of enormous experience.
You mentioned a lot of Italian fans in Montreal, a tremendous Italian population in Toronto, probably upwards of 500,000. When Italy won the World Cup soccer tournament, one of the great celebrations anywhere in the world was in Toronto. I have seen so many Italian fans from Toronto here this weekend, and you know they're having a ball right now. Not only are Ferraris first and second, an Italian driver, De Angelis, in the number 11 Lotus, is running in the number 3 position. There's Johansson, a young Swede, driving second. He is car number 28. The leader is car number 27, his teammate Michele Alboreto.
Well, there's certainly an Italian takeover. It's strange how the world of motor racing goes by. For a long while, Great Britain had the monopoly. Then France came in with a great glut of drivers. Then Brazil came in with a great number of top-line drivers winning a lot of races. Now Italy have arrived. And certainly there's a predominance of Italian talent, both in cars and in drivers. So that's nice to see. It's good to see everybody getting a share. There's been a general shortage of German drivers to the front, but Bellow's coming along well, as also, of course, is Manfred Winkelhoff, but never yet up front. And that there is Stefan Johansson with the leaves printed on the back of his helmet. The ESPN viewers here will remember that the leaves are because he had a nickname of the Little Leaves back in Sweden.
This race is far from over, but so far the day belongs to Ferrari. And our live exclusive coverage of the 1985 Quebec Canadian Grand Prix will continue right after this.
Johansson. Und hier wieder Alboreto. Pironi hat mir gesagt, dass er vor einigen Tagen in Paris zum ersten Mal wieder in einem Rennauto gesessen ist, und zwar einem Williams von 1982, einem Schürzenauto. Er fuhr auf dem Privatkurs seines Freundes mit diesem Formel-1-Rennwagen bessere Rundenzeiten als Chiva und Tambay, die er zu Vergleichszwecken hierher gebeten hatte. Und Alboreto ist, das haben wir es gesehen, am Berger vorbei. Enzo Ferrari hat gesagt, er hält Didier Pironi für alle Zeiten ein Rennauto frei. Wann immer er fahren möchte, dann steht ein Auto für ihn bereit. Und Pironi hat gesagt, darauf wird er ganz fest hoffen, darauf vertraut er. Vielleicht war es gerade das, das Stefan Johansson veranlasst hat, in diesem Grand Prix heute derart zu glänzen. Prost macht langsam ernst, 1:29,0. Bello fuhr seine bis jetzt beste Runde in diesem Rennen mit 1:33,1. Liegt weiterhin vor seinem Teamkollegen Brandl, und zwar um etwa 15 Sekunden. Patrese vor Menzel. Patrese ist 11. mit einer Runde Rückstand. Menzel in der gleichen Runde wie Alboreto, 7. Ja, von Rosberg bereits überholt. Sehr gutes Rennen heute von Keke Rosberg. Boxenstopp und trotzdem bereits wieder 6. als in den Weltmeisterschaftspunkterängen, und es ist ja schon...
For Romeo is pursued by the Williams. The Williams of number 5, Nigel Mansell, right now is standing in the number 7 position. Car number 22 is Ricardo Patrese. So actually, Mansell is trying to lap Patrese because Mansell stands 7th and Patrese is 11th.
Well, Ricardo Patrese, as I said earlier, is not the easiest man to get past on the road. It will be interesting to see how Mansell deals with that. And he's trying to do it right now. The Honda power getting past here very easily. A great amount of horsepower in this Honda engine. It develops, more than any of the other Grand Prix engines when it's really on form. It's a very short power curve, however, much shorter than the Ferrari we're now looking at, which is much more taut. It really, the Ferrari engine develops and torques much more comfortably from the driver's point of view. It's an easier car to drive, the Ferrari. Picks up its power around about 8,000 revs and goes all the way through 12 to 12,500 revs, developing the power, whereas the Honda has a 16 gearbox instead of the Ferrari having 5-speed. And look how the two Ferraris are within some distance of each other now. Johansson has really caught up Alboreto. Now, I wonder if that's planned. I don't think they'll allow Johansson to pass. I think they'll be getting pit signals, and on the pit lane there's a board that goes out, and the Ferrari team manager, Marco Piccinini, will be giving a signal to Alboreto, and also one of the other mechanics will be giving a signal to Johansson, telling them plus on the competition how many laps to go, and if they've got to stay in position, there is no question that Johansson is going much, much faster than Alboreto. Now, whether he's going to pass him is another matter. If Alboreto's in trouble, well, then surely Johansson will pass. But if he comes in behind, you will see team orders being observed.
Reminds me of when Villeneuve, refresh our viewers' memories, when Villeneuve was passed when he was leading.
Well, that happened in Imola, actually, in the last Grand Prix that he was able to take part in with Didi Pironi, who incidentally, Didi Pironi is here doing it on behalf of French television, just in the commentary position very close by. It's very nice to see him back again. Didi Pironi, who had suffered such a big accident at the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim in practice, he's back over here. So therefore it's quite interesting to see what would occur here. Here are the two Ferraris. Now this is a delicate situation. It depends on how well the cars are going. If they've got a big cushion on De Angelis, they will just hold their position right now. That'll be team orders.
Villeneuve, of course, was leading, and Pironi, against team orders, went on to pass him. You will probably not see that happen here this afternoon. Alboreto is currently second in the world standings, tied with Alain Prost with 18 points, 2 behind the leader, Elio de Angelis. Now, with a win, 9 points here today, Alboreto can move into first place. Johansson has only 1 point. There's De Angelis running third, the world leader. Johansson has only 1 point. That came at San Marino when he was sixth. He was actually leading that race, ran out of fuel with 2 laps to go.
Well, De Angelis driving round here very comfortably in third place, but well out of touch. He's more than 12 seconds behind the two Ferraris. There's a fellow there waves every time. His arm's going to fall off before the end of this race. He's obviously a Ferrari fan, and Alboreto is pleasing him right now, but I think Stefan Johansson's getting him a little bit more excited. Alboreto, he'll look in his mirror. Stefan Johansson, close behind him.
Jackie Stewart, a lot of racing fans were surprised when Ferrari hired young Johansson, who now pursues Alboreto, to replace the Frenchman René Arnoux. You were not surprised.
Well, I don't say I wasn't surprised. I was surprised that they dropped René Arnoux, as a matter of fact. He came out, by the way, not there to overtake Alboreto. He was just trying to get a little more air into his car, just to have a little more space. Yes, they chose Johansson. They wanted somebody who was already experienced, who wasn't brand new, who they thought they could rely on, who wasn't going to damage too many cars, because a lot of young drivers, full of exuberance and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, can get overexcited and damage cars, which can be extremely expensive for a team. Man-hours, mechanics having to work all night to repair them. They didn't need that. So they brought in a driver who they thought was the right balance for their team. They knew they had Alboreto, who was a positive winner in their mind. So they thought, we'll have a good support man. And therefore they chose Johansson. I think they chose well. René Arnoux himself, very talented. Quite the circumstances of his being dropped by Ferrari is still speculative. There's a lot of concern about that. Ferrari is a tough man. I never drove for the Ferrari team because I always felt that the Commendatore was a man who pleased himself too often, to be frank with you. I respect his success in racing, but he's always put one driver against the other rather a lot. He would always say to you, if you were driving, you're my favorite, while he would say the same to me, and I never really appreciated that. It's really not good to have, in my mind, conflict within the team. Right now, of course, he very much wants Alboreto to win the World Championship because he's an Italian driver.
That's a very interesting point, because for a long, long time, Ferrari would have no Italian driving his cars.
Well, for a long time, there weren't any good Italians in any case. Lorenzo Bandini was a good Italian driver who sadly lost his life in 1967 in Monte Carlo. But after that, there was a long time. Mazzario drove a Ferrari, was never really hotly competitive. Clay Ragazzoni came from the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, was more Italian than Swiss in many ways, but no, he hasn't had many Italians recently, but that's because of the lack of Italian drivers.
What about stories, Jackie, that he didn't want to be under pressure in case an Italian driver was injured or even killed while driving for Ferrari? Because let's face it, the Italian fans, out is the craze, or Cheever.
It looked like Eddie Cheever was in trouble there. The only American in the race looked like he was in big trouble. He's still driving around there in his Alfa Romeo very slowly. Nigel, that's Patrick Tamby passing him there. He's really going very slowly. The white flag you can just see on the right-hand side behind the bridge there. That's to tell other drivers there's a very slow-moving vehicle. That's the car of Mansell going round there. The flame that you see coming out of the car is the turbo on overrun. When the turbo is shut off, some of the fuel drips into the red-hot turbo chamber and catches fire, and therefore that flame comes out the exhaust pipe. This weekend here in Montreal, 9 cars have gone on fire. 5 of them seriously on fire, and it's because of turbos spilling fuel, and when the turbo breaks or blows up, then that fuel is allowed to spill around, and sooner or later they're going to have a major fire because of it.
There's a lot of concern over it, Jackie. Yesterday in the final qualifying session, Mansell's turbo caught fire, and he seemed to go on forever. As we look at the other Alfa Romeo, yes, that's Patrese, so it's Cheever that's out of the race. Mansell seemed to go on forever, not realizing the car was on fire.
Well, there's Cheever coming into the pits now. You can't see the flame in your mirrors, you see. That's the biggest problem. You can't see that flame because at the speed you're doing, the flame is low on the car, and it's tucked in with the aerodynamics, and you can't really see it. So the driver really is ignorant of the fire until he comes into a very slow corner, which of course is very busy doing his own thing, and unless it catches his eye in the mirror, he really doesn't know about it. Look, Alain Prost is right up behind Elio de Angelis. Alain Prost is seriously getting into Elio de Angelis. You're going to see a pass. It's taking place. No, it's not. De Angelis manages to do the job. Now, this is Alain Prost now jumping in. This is for third position here. Third position. De Angelis looks like he's going to lose it.
Less than 10 laps to go in this race. Remember, the course is so tough on fuel. Prost has been conserving. He is now going after De Angelis for third. However, De Angelis is something like 14 seconds behind Johansson, who is running second to his teammate Alboreto. De Angelis continues to hang tough as he is pursued by Alain Prost.
It's quite interesting that Elio de Angelis is not on the carbon fiber brakes. He's on normal brakes, metal brakes, steel brakes. And the car of Prost is on the carbon fiber brakes. The carbon fiber brakes are new composite carbon fiber that's used, high technology. It's a French company that makes them. It's a company this is very close now. CEP is a company that makes them for 7 of the leading teams. McLaren, Ferrari, Lotus have them. But on this occasion, Lotus decided to split their bet, and they put De Angelis on the normal traditional steel brakes, while they put Senna on the carbon fiber brakes. So it's interesting here how the braking will work out for these two drivers, because passing will be done on braking, basically.
Bremsen hat jetzt das Duell gegen Prost verloren. Prost Dritter, De Angelis Vierter in der 61. Runde, 8 Runden vor Schluss. Prost hat sicherlich ein besseres Auto zur Verfügung für die Schlussphase dieses Grand Prix als de Angelis. Ausfallgrund Eddie Cheever, Zündprobleme, Zündungsdefekt. Stimmt nicht mehr, de Angelis ist nicht mehr Dritter, sondern Vierter. Aber der Italiener kommt in jedem Grand Prix durch. Unglaublich. Hatte voriges Jahr schon eine unheimliche Serie von Zielankünften. Vom ersten Rennen bis zum August, zum deutschen Grand Prix in Hockenheim. Dann allerdings zum ersten Mal etwas mehr Ladedruck versucht und prompt ein Motorschaden. Prost Dritter hinter Alboreto und Johansson.
We've just seen a sign put out to Mr. Johansson saying slow. The Ferrari team are trying to dampen him down in his 13th Grand Prix. I remember how Alboreto ran out of petrol at San Marino. I think the last time we saw Ferrari 1-2 was Arno and Tombe in 83 in Holland. That's a long time ago. And they don't want fuel consumption to spoil another 1-2 for the famous Scarlet Goal. Back to you, Jackie and Brian.
It was indeed Holland in 1983, the last time Ferrari was 1-2. The only other time Ferrari has been 1-2 in the Canadian Grand Prix was at nearby Montreal, Quebec in 1970 when Jackie Ickx was first and Clay Regazzoni finished second. Running second right now is this man, car number 28, Stefan Johansson. Johansson trailing Alboreto by about 3 seconds. They have a substantial lead over Prost, De Angelis, followed by Rosberg and Mansell.
Well, Rosberg has caught up quite well. He's got himself into 5th position because he had a little bit of a spin out. He had all sorts of trouble. He seemed to come into the pits at one point and get himself some new tyres after a spin. So that's been a pretty impressive race, in fact, by Keke Rosberg, who's up to 5th spot.
Jackie, speaking of moving up, Alain Prost has now moved up to within 13 seconds of Stefan Johansson, who is now trailing his teammate by 1.86 seconds.
Yes, but there is only 7 laps to go, and it really have to have something dramatic happen. But this is at the stage in the race when dramatic happenings do occur, and if there's a fuel problem, it would certainly start to happen around now.
Ferrari trying to win the Canadian Grand Prix for the 4th time. Ickx won in 1970. The late Gilles Villeneuve won the inaugural race here in Montreal in 1978. And René Arnoux fired this year after the race in Brazil won 2 years ago in 1983. Here's the man that should do it this afternoon, Michele Alboreto, as he tries for his 4th career victory. He's won in Las Vegas, won in Detroit. He has only 1 victory for Ferrari, and that was last year in Belgium.
The one good thing about Ferrari, when they get it right, they get it very right. And then they have good mechanical reliability. They're very strong because they've got tremendous resources and experience in Maranello in Italy. They are by far the most experienced constructors of racing cars in the world. And when they get it right, it really means to me that Alboreto has a very solid chance of winning the World Championship this year. For me, the 2 drivers with the best chance are Alboreto and Prost for the World Championship.
And of course, the last Italian to win it in an Italian car was Ascari way back in 1953.
There's Elio de Angelis working hard in 4th position there with his John Player, Team Lotus, car number 11. Ayrton Senna, who would have been up there with them, had trouble with his turbo early on and had to come into the pits, is still out on the racetrack. It must be refreshing for our ESPN viewers not to have to get up very early in the morning on the west coast of America. Getting up at a normal time and being able to see a normal race over here must be at least a relief.
Well, I tell you, viewers in Canada get to see the entire season, exclusive coverage, every single race on Sports Weekend, and, of course, the races in the United States carried on ESPN. We'll be in Detroit 1 week from today as the Formula One season continues, but as we wind it down now, 6 laps to go, it is Alboreto, Johansson, Prost, and De Angelis. Michele Alboreto, should he hang on, will surge into the world driving lead.
We're looking at Keke Rosberg. Keke Rosberg coming through the field extremely well. He did an excellent job Keke Rosberg in coming through the field.
Speaking of world standings, Rosberg, of course, a former world champion.
Rosberg is some distance behind anybody else. There's not much improvement that he can make. He's not going to catch De Angelis unless something goes far wrong. Nigel Mansell is who we're looking at right now, and he's done a very steady race, picking up 1 point in the World Championship if he holds that position right now. 9 points for first place, 6 points for second, 4 for third, 3 for fourth, 2 for fifth place, and 1 point in the World Championship for sixth place.
You mentioned 1 point for sixth place. That is all that Stefan Johansson, running second, has heading into this, the fifth race of the season. He was sixth in San Marino, but it looks like Johansson will finish second to his teammate Alboreto. Keke Rosberg, the former world champion, running in the number 5 position. But as you say, Jackie, well back. In fact, he is now 42 seconds behind Michele Alboreto. The story continues to be this man, number 27. What a great day for the Ferrari team, and they so dearly love to win here on the circuit named after one of their greatest drivers, Gilles Villeneuve.
But Alan Prost is in fact catching Johansson. It's interesting, I'll take a gap in this next lap as they come through here, coming through the hairpin now, and look, Alan Prost is very, very close to Johansson. I think you're going to see a naughty. Here he is. That is Alan Prost going past there within a second. There you see the two of them. That's the battle for second place.
Is there something wrong with Johansson's car? Because as I looked at the computer, he was 6 seconds back only about a lap and a half ago, and now he's closed that.
Well, I think you'll find that he may have a little braking trouble, but I think at the same time, Alan Prost has really got the bit between his teeth. This is the type of performance that we could expect. I think it is surprising that he's allowed Alboreto to get quite as far ahead of him as he has. I would suggest he has a little bit of trouble, but it'll be a spirited few laps. It's only a matter of 4 laps to the end of this race, so Alan Prost is really closing up. I think you're going to see one heck of a battle here in these closing laps, but it is impressive that Prost has been able to catch him as quickly as he has.
Well, you said early on today that Prost is the master tactician and would possibly lay back, use his fuel wisely, then make his move late in the race, and he is making it right now.
Well, Alan Prost, very calculated, very cool. This is not for a victory at this moment. But who's to know what can happen in these last 3 or 4 laps? Fuel could certainly be a problem. You get things like fuel surge where a car, and this is the final hairpin right now. There is Alboreto. The other red car, the second car in your picture right there is Johansson. Then the red and white car is Alan Prost. They're all very close. Alboreto is out of Prost's reach at this stage, I can tell you.
Hang on to your seats. We have an exciting finish coming up to this 1985 Canadian Grand Prix. Just a couple of laps to go. There is Alain Prost as he chases Stefan Johansson, Ferrari number 28, and Johansson is chasing his teammate, car number 27, Michele Alboreto.
Now you're going to see the little knobs inside the cockpit, these turbo push knobs. If they get turned up, they're suddenly going to be pushing out a lot more horsepower. Ayrton Senna there, going out of your picture. De Angelis coming up to lap him. De Angelis is right now in 4th position, relegated from the lead into 4th position, and he is being threatened by Keke Rosberg. Rosberg is on him. He's going to displace him for 4th position. Keke Rosberg is right behind Elio de Angelis. We have some great stories right here, and there he goes. Power, look at that power. The wheels were churning up the road there. You can see the black marks of the spinning wheels. So we now have Keke Rosberg in 4th position.
De Angelis, the world driving leader, coming into this race by 2 points over Prost, and Alboreto now drops down. Hang on, it is far from over. Rosberg from Finland making his move. He will not be a factor in the outcome of the race. Prost could be, as Alain Prost is continuing to chase the 2 Ferraris, Michele Alboreto and Stefan Johansson. There's Alboreto, Johansson, and now number 2, Alain Prost.
They've got 2 more laps to complete. This is only 2 laps to complete. Alboreto leading the Labatt Grand Prix of Canada with only 2 laps around this Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And the Île Notre-Dame. Michele Alboreto staying cool, being told by his head exactly what's happening. He's the man you're looking at. And right behind him is Stefan Johansson. We're waiting for him coming into the picture. He's being held up by one of the arrows, and Prost is closing up on him. This is tricky. This is tricky. He's got through. Or has he? Alboreto stays calm. Alboreto coming up again, and one of the other arrows, yes. Now see where Johansson is and where Prost is. They're coming in, and Prost is almost alongside. He's looking for a place to pass. This is going to be, they're coming in. They'll be taking only 2 laps after this. This is the second last lap. They're on right now. They're coming into the final hairpin. Alain Prost looking for a place to overtake. Watch it the next lap, because that'll be the last lap. Accelerating away. Alboreto, 1 lap to go. Johansson and Prost almost side by side. And there's a slower car in between them here, Brian. This could be tricky. This could be very tricky on this last lap.
Alboreto by about 2 seconds over his teammate Johansson, and right behind Johansson is Alain Prost. Now, Johansson is starting to open it up a bit on Prost. There goes the arrows around, not a factor. There's Johansson. There is Alain Prost third.
But what is going to be a factor is the arrows car with regards to being lapped here, because Johansson's got to have a clear run here, or it could be very tricky. Alboreto got through one of the tunnels. That's a Ligier. That was De Cesare there. To get through, look at how busy it is. Alain Prost going to be held up by De Cesare, I think. The Ferrari gets clear. That's Alboreto. He's through. He's okay. Then an arrow. Then Johansson. Look, Alain Prost lost it. He got up behind the Ligier there, and he got balked, and that stopped him from any chance of catching Johansson.
Michele Alboreto will win this 1985 Canadian Grand Prix. There he goes. There's Johansson. He will finish second. And Alain Prost will finish third. The checkered flag is out for car number 27, the Ferrari of Italy's Michele Alboreto. It's official. Ferrari has finished 1-2 for the second time in Canadian Grand Prix history. It is Alboreto first, Johansson second, and the Frenchman, the McLaren veteran, Alain Prost, finishing third.
And Alain Prost put on the brakes and came to a stop immediately he passed the finishing line. He pulled up immediately. There's something wrong with his car, I'm sure. And there he is. He's out the car. He stepped out of the car immediately. No sooner had he crossed the finishing line, but he put on the brakes. I don't think he's happy at all. I don't know what's wrong with the car. He's taken a handshake, and there's Keke Rosberg. He's stopped as well. He's smoking.
All right, Jackie, let's bring in Barry Gill as we look at the 2 Ferraris.
And here is the happiest team manager in Canada today. Congratulations, Marco. Were you worried at the end that they were going to get caught by Prost?
Yes, of course, I think it was a very close race. We were very worried about McLaren. We know that they are, with us, I think, the most efficient on fuel consumption. I was thinking that without rain would have definitely been a Ferrari McLaren race, and not been so bad for us.
Now, you must have a chance for the World Championship.
Oh, it's too early to speak about the championship. We are not even halfway. It's better to wait. I think there are a lot of qualified calendar. We will try harder.
Thank you, Marco. Thanks to Douglas. A very happy team manager, Jackie and Brian.
Well, the day certainly belongs to Ferrari. Car number 27, Michele Alboreto, wins for the 4th time in his career. Ferrari finishing 1-2 with the McLaren of Alain Prost finishing third. We go back to 1970. Jackie Hicks won it for Ferrari at Mont-Tremblant. Clay Regazzoni finished second. Listen to this tremendous crowd in Montreal, Jackie Stewart. As we look at the unofficial results, they love that car number 27. They are going crazy.
Yep, well, let's quickly run through the top 10 here. We've got Alboreto first, Johansson second, Alain Prost third, Keke Rosberg, an amazing drive into 4th position. Elio de Angelis coming from the pole position and the lead down to 5th position. Nigel Mansell makes up the World Championship point, standing in 6th position. And then 1 lap behind is Patrick Canby in 7th, then Lafitte in 8th, Terry Boots in 9th, and Ricardo Patrese in 10th. As you can see, the remains of a lot of cars around this racetrack, and a proud Ferrari flag waving high in the hills of the grandstands.
And if my arithmetic is correct, Michele Alboreto leads the world driving standings with 27 points. Alain Prost is now tied with Elio de Angelis as we look at Johansson on the left. He was second. The dark-haired driver is Alboreto. Alboreto in the lead with 27 points. De Angelis, who led going into this race today and unofficially has finished 5th, will be tied for 2nd with Alain Prost, who is unofficially 3rd. Stay with us. Lots more to come as we continue our live coverage of the 1985 Labatt Grand Prix of Canada from Montreal. I can go first. Okay, it was better the other way. Can I put it the other way? Welcome back live to Montreal.
Ladies and gentlemen,
with Jackie Stewart and Barry Gill in the center. The winner, Michele Alboreto. On the left, that is Johansson, who was 2nd, and on the right, McLaren's Prost, who finished 3rd. The official presentations, Pierre Desjardins from Labatt Breweries of Quebec.
J'aimerais tout d'abord remercier les milliers de bénévoles qui font cette course un succès à chaque année. J'aimerais aussi remercier la Fédération internationale, la Fédération canadienne, la Fédération du Québec, ainsi que le gouvernement du Québec qui nous a apporté un support tout particulier cette année. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Labatt Brewing Company, I would also like to thank the drivers, their crews, and the many sponsors who make this race an event. A very successful event indeed. Thank you very much.
Michele Alboreto and Ferrari win
Mesdames et messieurs,
here in Montreal. The 4th time Ferrari has won the Canadian Grand Prix.
Procède maintenant à la remise des trophées du Grand Prix Labatt du Canada. En 3e position, in 3rd place, de France, Alain Prost.
Alain Prost, finishing 3rd, moves into a 2nd place tie with De Angelis in the world driving standings.
Well, we were very blessed with good weather here. We can be thankful that that happened.
In 2nd place,
In 2nd position by Pierre Desjardins, being given now a beautiful crystal trophy, being given to Stefan Johansson.
Et maintenant, mesdames et
Listen to the
messieurs,
applause for the number 27 Ferrari.
couronnera le gagnant du Grand Prix Labatt du Canada. Now, the winner of the Labatt Grand Prix of Canada from Italy, Michele Alboreto. Mesdames et messieurs, Mademoiselle Grand Prix offre maintenant des fleurs aux gagnants. Miss Grand Prix will present flowers to the winner. Et Monsieur Desjardins présente aux gagnants le trophée Gilles Villeneuve. Now, Mr. Desjardins presents the Gilles Villeneuve trophy to the winner.
Ferrari winning for the 4th time in this country. Jackie Ickx won in 1970. The late Gilles Villeneuve winning the inaugural race on this circuit in 1978. René Arnoux fired from Ferrari, winning in 83. And the winner in 1985, Michele Alboreto. His 4th career victory, one in Las Vegas, one in Detroit for Ken Giro, one last year for Ferrari in Belgium. And for the 2nd time, wins for Ferrari. Big story is the gentleman on the left, Jackie Stewart, Stefan Johansson. He picks up some very valuable points.
Well, Stefan drove a wonderful race. I think Michele Alboreto, the national anthem of Italy being played for the team rather than for the driver. In fact, historically is the case. Michele taking his hat off for his own national anthem. a driver who I think we have a very good chance of seeing on the same kind of podium when the World Championship presentation comes round. I think it will be he or Alan Prost.
Well, he has moved into the world driving lead. He now has 27 points. Alain Prost has 22, as does De Angelis. De Angelis today was 5th, and here's Ferrari Gilles.
1 year for this day, and I am very happy now, for me and for all the team. A first and a second. Sorry.
Yes, 1 minute. The 1985 Grand Prix Labatt de Canada on ESPN has been brought to you by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution, and by Honda Motorcycles, Honda, follow the leader, and by BF Goodrich, makers of high-performance PA radios. We make cars perform.
No problem at all from the beginning to the finish. My car was, I think, the best on the track. A fantastic engine, good traction, very low consumption. I think was really good.
Easy to pass, Elio?
Not easy, but with our engine, I think it's much easier than normal.
You have solved the gasoline problems?
No, I think we start with the pressure to finish the race, and I didn't touch the boost for all the race.
Stefan got quite close to you in one stage.
Yeah, because we have 2 good cars. I think is our position, first and second.
And no team rules?
No, I don't think so. I think we have not problem with me and Stefan. I think it was much more dangerous to have a war in the family, you know.
Right. And Prost got quite close to Stefan also.
Yeah, but one thing is to be close, one thing is to pass him.
Well, that's a sentiment that I'm sure Enzo Ferrari will agree with, because this splendid Ferrari 1-2 has put Michele Alboreto into the lead in the Drivers' World Championship by 5 points from Alain Prost and Elio de Angelis, who are joint second. Patrick Tambay in 4th place is a whole 12 points adrift, so 2 Italians and a Frenchman now dispute the Drivers' World Championship. Italy is on top in the Constructors' World Championship also, with Ferrari now having a 6-point lead over Lotus, with McLaren third. And the next round, the Detroit Grand Prix, is just 7 days away.